What's that you say, Doc? An hour-long vampire story with a surprise Easter egg hidden somewhere within? You're in? Damn right. Okay, my friends, it's time once again to sit back and relax with your favorite drink and listen. It all started when my best friend Moses came running up to me in an absolute panic. He'd lived a few doors down from me in our apartment complex since kindergarten all the way until now, a few months into 6th grade. Well, I'd been riding my bicycle around our building when he literally jumped out in front of me. "Eli, holy shit, bro. Come with me. I gotta tell you something," he yelled as I slammed on the brakes, causing the bike to squeal to a stop. "Christ, dude, I almost ran you over," I yelled, but he ignored me. He took me by the wrist and tried to lead me behind the building, but I snatched my arm away. "Let me get my bike. I'm not leaving it out here for some crackhead to steal." Once I picked up my bicycle, I followed him around the building to see what he was tripping over. "Okay, Mo. So, what got you so tore up?" I asked him. "First, you have to promise not to tell anyone. Promise," he said. "Okay, sure, I promise," I assured him. He was always up to no good and in some kind of trouble, but the boy was harmless and it was never anything serious, so I figured it wouldn't be too hard a promise to keep. Then he pulled me in real close and whispered to me, "Eli, there's a Dracula in the basement." Trying to process his words, I pulled my head back, rubbing my temples for a second before saying, "Moses, what did you just say to me?" "There's a Dracula in the basement," he whispered again, but loudly. "Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. So, you're telling me there's some kind of old white dude with a widow's peak, all clothes, a cape, and hairy palms in our building's basement calling himself Dracula?" I asked him. "What? No, that's not what Never mind, just follow me," he said, trying to drag me along behind him again. "I'm not leaving my bike out here," I yelled once more, turning to pick it up before rolling it along to catch up with him. I followed him into the apartment complex and down towards the basement. Before the building was converted into housing for Section 8, it was an abandoned multi-level department store decades ago. So the basement was huge, being used for merchandise storage and to house the boilers for the rest of the building. Well, it was hard to keep up with him, moving as fast as he was. "Damn, would you chill out?" I yelled after him as he stumbled over one of the bike's pedals. "Bro, hurry up," he yelled back, clearing 2 or 3 steps at a time as he bounded down the stairwell. Finally, we got to the bottom, where he was waiting for me in front of the basement doors. That's when I noticed something I hadn't earlier. He had a dirty rag hanging out of his back pocket that seemed to have some dark stains on it. Before I could ask what they were, he pushed one of the doors open and gestured for me to follow him in. Once we were both inside and the door was closed behind us, he flipped the light switch. The fluorescent bulbs hummed to life and lit up the area with the chain-link storage cages for the occupants. Though most were empty, on account of many of the residents not owning enough possessions to need any extra space to store them. Then I caught something different than usual. A trail leading back deeper into the basement where the lights didn't reach. A trail of what looked like droplets of some kind. Well, and that's when I started to get a little worried. "Mo, what's that stuff on the floor?" I asked in a hushed voice. "It started at the front doors upstairs, but I didn't have time to wipe it all up before I came and got you, so I just did the places people might see before I brought you back with me," he replied. "Well, that doesn't answer my question, Moses," I said back. "Come on, back this way," he instructed, walking into the darker parts of the basement, back toward the boiler rooms where nobody ever goes anymore. As we got closer to the boiler rooms, he took out a small flashlight from his pocket. Once we rounded the corner into the room, I heard him click it on before he shone it down in the direction of the furnace on the other side from us. I saw something moving behind one of the pipes. My jaw almost hit the ground when my vision focused and I realized what it was. The figure stood, covering their face with one hand and squinting as the light hit their eyes. I was looking at a pale girl, about our age or maybe a little older. She had on an oversized white t-shirt that dropped down to her bare legs. Her dirty, blonde hair was almost at the same level as the bottom of the t-shirt. But what scared the hell out of me was I could now very clearly tell the source of the trail of droplets. The front of her shirt was almost completely stained red with what was obviously blood. Blood that led all the way up her neck to her mouth, which was also covered in the dried reddish-brown crust. "Oh, my God!" I screamed, snatching Moses back around the corner by his arm and running full blast towards the basement doors. I pretty much tackled the doors open, causing them to bang loudly off the walls, which echoed up the previously quiet stairwell. Once we were through, I shoved Moses up against the wall and started yelling in his face. "What the fuck are you thinking?" I shouted. "Do you have any idea how much trouble we're in right now? You've got a half-naked, hurt white girl down in the basement covered in blood. Do you have any idea what's going to happen to us if they think 2 black kids kept a bloody white girl in the nasty old basement of a housing project? Oh my God, and she's blonde too. You know how much white people like blonde girls," I screamed, poking a finger into his chest in anger. "Jesus Christ, man, they're going to give us both a chair. No, we're going to get the firing squad if they ever find her down here and she mentions that we were down here with her." Excuse me? Hi?" A while for the sound and echo of the ungodly loud shriek that came out of me to dissipate after hearing the voice suddenly speak from behind me. The girl from the boiler room continued to speak as I tried to catch my breath. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to scare you guys. I just need a place to stay until night. Then I'll leave. Please don't tell anyone I'm down here until then. Please," she said plainly, before walking quietly back through the basement doors and out of sight once again. After a few moments of stunned silence, I shoved Moses again. "Ah, you really fucked us this time," I hissed. "I told you there was a Dracula down here," he said excitedly. "Okay, first you mean vampire. Dracula's a specific vampire from an old book, dumbass. And second, she's no such thing. And that girl clearly has something wrong with her. She's covered in blood and chilling in a basement. Oh, she ain't right," I scolded. "And now we're screwed. We can't tell anyone. They'll think we had something to do with all the blood. And if we don't tell anyone and she snitches on us, we're still equally screwed because it looks like we were hiding her down there." Well, we both sat in the empty stairwell for several more minutes before I finally stood up and dusted myself off. "Okay, well, you got me into this, so now I'm going to have to go back in there and work this shit out with her so we don't end up on the 5 o'clock news. Give me the flashlight," I told him, holding out my hand. "You really going to go in there and talk to the Dracula?" he asked, digging through his pocket. "Vampire, not Dracula. I mean, wait, no, she's not a vampire. She's probably just some girl from another apartment that got smacked around by her parents and came down here to hide before she runs away," I explained as he placed the light in my hand. "Now, wait right here so you don't make it any worse," I said as I walked back through the basement door. Yeah, hey there, Miss White Girl. I just wanted to talk to you for a second about some stuff," I said as I shone the flashlight around the corner towards the furnace. Once the light hit her and she heard my voice, she looked up from what she was doing. And what she was doing was that she'd found a dead rat in her hands and she was sucking and slurping blood from it with a crazy long tongue that looked like it was covered in little thorns or something. "Oh, sorry to bother you," I screamed as I took off back towards the doors, even faster than before. Moses jumped and almost fell off the steps as I crashed through the doors, before slamming them shut and throwing my weight against them to hold them closed. And then I managed to huff out the words through my heavy, exhausted breathing. "There's a Dracula in the basement." "I told you," Moses said as we ran back up the stairs. "What do we do? What do we do?" I repeated as I rocked back and forth on my bed. "How am I supposed to know?" Moses asked. "She said she was planning to leave tonight anyway, didn't she?" Our conversation ended when my dad got home and started cooking dinner. Moses stayed to eat and then went home to his own apartment, leaving me alone with my thoughts of the rat-eating monster in the basement of the building. remembering what the girl said about leaving once it got dark. I kept my eyes on the entrance, since there was only one way in and out. If she really did leave, it would have to be through the front door. After a few hours, I noticed a shadow cast from the light inside the building. Someone was about to walk through the door. I quickly ducked down low enough to just peek out over the windowsill. And sure enough, it was the girl. She walked through the front doors and into the night. Still, I decided to wait and see if she came back. But after a few more hours passed, I accidentally dozed off. Once I finally woke back up, it was almost midnight. I rolled over on my bed and switched my nightstand lamp on. As the light spread through the room, it drew my attention back to my window. I looked out at the figure of an upside-down woman staring in at me with glowing yellow eyes. "Oh, fuck!" I screamed, horrified as she extended a clawed hand down towards the window and began to slowly open it. "Boy, I know you're not in there cussing," my dad yelled from the living room. By the time I turned back to the window from my bedroom door, the window was halfway open, but the girl was nowhere in sight. I got up and ran to the window, slamming it shut and locking it in place. The next morning I went straight to Moses to tell him what had happened that night, but when I got to his apartment, his mum told me he'd already left before she woke up. Immediately thinking the worst, I took off towards the basement, not having any kind of plan for when I actually got there. When I got to the basement doors, I could already tell that the lights were on. Taking a quick second to get my breathing under control, I cracked one of the doors and peeked in to see if one of the residents might be in there getting something out of storage. Once I made sure no other occupants were down there, I opened the door the rest of the way and slowly walked inside. I crept towards the boiler room where we found the girl from the day before, getting the flashlight I brought down with me ready in hand, but as I got closer, I began to notice a dim light, and then voices. Jumping from behind the corner, I turned the flashlight on and aimed it into the boiler room, illuminating both Moses and the vampire girl, who were both sitting on the ground in front of an electric lantern. I turned the light off once I noticed them both raising their hand to keep the beam out of their eyes. "What the hell is this?" I shouted. "Oh, hey, yeah, I was about to come get you," Moses said. "No, that's not what I meant," I responded. "Look, she literally tried to climb into my window last night like some actual Dracula, and you're down here having a camp out with her?" "Oh, right. She said something about that. Yeah, she said she did try to leave, but the vampire who attacked her was still looking for her, so, well, she came back here. Something about the way this place smells. Makes it harder to sniff her out or something. Oh, she tried to explain it to you last night, but you freaked out and scared her off," he explained. "I scared her?" I barked. "Yeah, she said she'd have told me instead, but my apartment doesn't have windows, so she had to go find you," he said. It was then that I noticed the girl was now clean of the blood from the day before, with a pile of used wet wipes and her old blood-stained clothes laying on the ground between them. Then I looked up to her and the new clothes she was wearing. "Where did all this come from?" I asked him, gesturing around at the mess. "Oh, from the bag of clothes my sister was going to give to Goodwill. Well, I couldn't leave her like that," he added, seeing my scowl. "You can't just adopt a vampire," I yelled down at him. "We don't have any idea what she might do. And she's still a missing white girl in a basement. Oh, if someone sees us down here with her, that ain't gonna look good." "You do realize she can hear you, right?" The girl suddenly spoke up, startling me and Moses a little. "Oh, I sutured before she spoke over me. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone. I've been sticking to rats and other small animals since I got attacked a few nights ago. And my name isn't White Girl. It's Amanda," she said as I stared down at her with my mouth hanging open. "Oh, your tongue's getting dusty," she added. After I snapped my jaw shut in response, I took a deep breath and composed myself before speaking again. "Okay, Amanda, you gotta get the hell up out of here," I told her, pointing towards the basement doors. "I can't," she replied. Why not? I yelled back. Because I don't have anywhere else to go, she answered under her breath. What about your parents? I asked. They're dead. They died the night I was attacked. I barely got away and they didn't, she explained. I fell through my bedroom window when the vampire grabbed me. I pulled him out with me and we both fell several stories to the ground, but he landed on a fence post right next to me and got stuck, so I was able to get away. Moses thinks cuts from the broken glass might have caused us to mix blood, and well, that's how I got turned, since he never actually bit me. Well, so you're the vampire expert now, yeah? I said, looking back over at Moses. Google, he said back. So, some kind of foster care thing, I suggested. Oh yeah, that'll go over well. Hi, my parents were just eaten by a vampire. Also, sunlight charged my flesh. I need to eat raw animals to survive. And I can do this, she said sarcastically before her regular teeth drew back, revealing a large set of triangular fangs that looked more like blades than teeth, and extended her ridiculously long tongue as it exploded into a wriggling mass of small barbs. Christ, okay, just put that shit away, I shouted, flinching and holding my hands up for cover. With a gross, slimy sound, she pulled her tongue back and her teeth went back to normal. So, you see my problem? She asked before it was all the way back in her mouth. Okay, whatever. I'm not fighting you two on it anymore, but if she eats your ass, don't say I didn't tell you so, I said to Moses as I left the boiler room. And I'm nailing my goddamn window shut. Later that night, as I sat in my room, I heard a tapping sound on my window. I rolled my head over, knowing there's only one person who could be tapping on my third-story window. This time seeing an upside-down girl hanging, upside down, in the dark, outside my room, was more annoying than terrifying. I tried to ignore her, rolling back over in the opposite direction. The constant tinking was starting to get on my last nerve. I finally stood up, grabbing a notepad and a marker. I walked over to the window, scribbling on the paper as I went. Once I got to the window, I pressed the pad to the glass so she could see the bold letters that said, "Fuck off." She paused for a few seconds before resuming the tapping. I reached down and popped the lock on the window and pulled it open just enough to let my voice out. "What?" I whispered loudly through the crack. "Hey, you didn't nail it shut," the girl said. "Well, I tried, but my dad wouldn't let me," I told her. "Now what are you doing back up here? People might see you, stupid," I said, looking into her upside-down face. "I just wanted to thank you for not telling anyone," she said, crawling down a little closer to the opening, causing me to reflexively put my hand on it to push it closed. "I didn't do it for you, but you're welcome," I said, closing the window. Once it slid shut, she crawled away over the window, causing me to shiver a little at the sight of her shadowy form descending into the night. After a few seconds, curiosity got the better of me, so I slid the window back open and stuck my head out to see where she'd gone, assuming she already had. I looked towards the ground to see a pair of glowing yellow eyes staring back up at me. They blinked a few times before their owner spoke. "I left something on the roof," she said, before crawling around me and my window, then up the side of the building and out of sight over the roof. Pulled my head back inside, closed the window, then drew the curtain this time. But before I had a chance to walk away, I heard more tapping at the window. "Christ almighty," I groaned, turning to snatch the curtain back and slam the window open. "What?" "Hey, can I borrow a pillow?" she asked as she hung upside down once again. "There's not much to put my head on down there." "If I give you one, will you go away?" I asked crankily. "Yes." Grabbed an extra pillow off my bed and stuck it outside for her. She took it from me and started to climb down the wall. Not bothering to reclose the window, I walked over to my closet and grabbed a blanket. Walked back over to the window again. Also, can I maybe borrow a "Oh, thanks," she said, taking the blanket and making her way back down the building. I swear to God, she's going to ask me for a cup of sugar next time. I said to Moses the next day, pushing the new pillow, blanket, and air mattress I'd bought that morning from the Dollar General around the corner. Give her this and get my stuff back. You let her borrow an air mattress? I didn't know you had one of those, he questioned. What? No, I just don't want her showing up asking for my whole goddamn bed. Just take this down there on your next playdate, I said, giving the bags of stuff another push. The more she has to ask for, the more she's going to climb up and down the building. The more she does that, the bigger the chance we'll get busted. You know, we could just ask her if she needs anything, so she doesn't have to climb up to your window and ask for it, Moses suggested, glancing down the stairs leading to the basement, then back at me. A jacket would be nice. It's starting to get colder now. Maybe some light bulbs, she said, pointing up at the empty socket on the ceiling of the boiler room. Well, a heater would be good too, and, She looked around the room as she bounced herself softly against the air mattress she was sitting on. What about, a portable DVD player or something? It's really boring down here all day. We'll see what we can do, I said, rubbing my temples. Okay, you dig through your storage cage for an old DVD player and a heater, I told Moses as we left the boiler room. Where are you going? He asked me. Thrift store. See if I can find a jacket and some damn light bulbs, I said as I reached the basement doors. It had just got dark by the time I got back. When I rolled up on my bike, that Amanda girl was standing out in front of the complex. Just standing there. I jumped off my bike and ran up to her. What the hell are you thinking? I half yelled as I reached her. There's still people out here right now. Someone's going to see you. Where's Mo? Oh, he's downstairs. Well, I wanted some fresh air, she answered. Do you even breathe? I asked. Yes, I'm not dead, stupid, she replied. She started to say, but stopped, glancing over my shoulder. I turned to see what she was looking at, and saw some raggedy guy creeping towards my bike, which I had left lying behind me. Hey, don't even, dude, I shouted, throwing several rocks at him, causing him to run off before he got his hands on my ride. Oh, frickin' crackhead, I said under my breath as I turned back to face Amanda, who'd started to walk past me towards the would-be bike thief. What are you doing? I asked, grabbing the back of her shirt to try and stop her. But she dragged me for several steps like I didn't weigh a thing, before she finally snapped out of it. What? Let go of me, weirdo, she said, brushing my hand away. What the hell was that? I asked, pointing in the direction the man had gone. What was what? She asked in response. Nothing. Look, here's your stupid jacket, I said, reaching into the bag and handing it to her. Now, let's hurry up and go put one of these light bulbs in. I got school tomorrow. Do you think that man will tell anyone about seeing me? She asked. Nah, probably not. Nobody believes crackheads anyway, I answered. What the hell is this? I shouted at Moses as we made it to the boiler room, where he was in the middle of carefully adjusting the position of a small end table near the far wall. He'd apparently dug a bunch of other stuff out of storage as well, like tables and a chair, stuffed animals and lamps, and a couch, which were all carefully and neatly set up around the room. I said just get her a heater and a DVD player. God, this place looks better than my room now. Is this all from your storage? I asked in disbelief. Yeah, we still had a lot of our own stuff from back before my dad lost his job. The old house was a lot bigger than the apartment, he said. Did you find any light bulbs? I dug through the plastic bag and tossed him one of the bulbs, then sat the rest down on the nearest of many small tables. A few seconds later, he screwed the light into the socket and flipped the switch. Yep, definitely nicer than my room, I mumbled, looking around the freshly lit space. So, what the hell are you going to do if someone comes down here and sees all this light pouring out of the boiler room? I asked skeptically. They both exchanged a confused look, and then looked back at me. We hadn't thought of that, they both said together. Oh, I groaned, rubbing a sore spot on the side of my head. An hour later, I was back in the basement with my dad's toolbox and instructions from the internet scribbled on a piece of paper. And now we're trying to rewire the lights. After a while, I finally flipped the breaker back on and closed up the toolbox. Okay, let's see if this works, I said, looking down towards the light shining out from around the corner of the boiler room. If I did this right, when the basement light gets turned on, it should cut the power to the boiler room, and hopefully not catch the building on fire. I then walked around the small partition to the basement doors and flipped the switch. It worked! Amanda shouted from out of sight inside the boiler room. Oh, that's so cool! She shrieked, causing me to smirk a little in pride. Good thing you're one of the smartest kids in our class, Moses said, peeking around the corner. I don't think I could have figured that out. Not really. It's just about following the instructions exactly as they're given. Just like in school, I told him, holding up the piece of paper with the instructions on it. They don't want smart students, just obedient ones, I added, walling up the piece of paper which I tossed into the trash can that Moses had set up in the boiler room once we got there. So, rats? I asked, plopping down on the couch. Yeah, pretty much, Amanda answered. Seems to have been doing the trick these past few days. Okay then, where's the remains? I asked, looking around the room. Oh, well, there aren't any, she said, seemingly becoming embarrassed and lowering her head. What? How? I asked, leaning forward in my seat. I think I kind of make some kind of... What's the word? She trailed off. Secretion? Enzyme? I suggested. Enzyme, that's the one. Something that liquefies the whole thing except for the teeth. Even the bone. You think it all comes from these? She said, extending her tongue and pointing to the tiny little quill-like structures that protruded from inside it once it opened. Okay, please, put that away. It freaks me out, I yelled, almost climbing over the back of the couch. Freaks you out? It's in my mouth, she said, or tried to say as a spiny tongue still wiggled around in the air between us. Okay, I get it. Could you just not? I begged. Once the sound of my panic died down, the sounds of Moses' cackling laughter could be heard from the chair opposite to me. Oh, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, I said, glaring at him. I am. I really am, he laughed, clutching his sides as he doubled over in his seat. Anyway, she said, finally retracting her tongue to speak normally, there's this enzyme thing that turns everything but the teeth into a gluey, bloody liquid that I, kind of... She trailed off as she saw the grossed out look on my face. Oh, do we want to know what happens to the... You do not want to know what happens to the teeth, she finished for me. Well, I guess that makes sense. Explains how vampires exist, but why there's not a bunch of bloodless bodies turning up all the time. I thought out loud. Okay, well, I'm going to go home now and try and forget about all of this. So you're not going to come back down here anymore? Amanda asked. No, I'm done with it from here on out, I answered. You'll probably never see me again. Oh, my bike is a flat. Don't even say nothing, I said, pushing Moses out of the way as I walked through the basement door. Bike. Flat tire. Shut it, I said to Amanda, who gave me some kind of look as I plopped down on the couch and started flipping through a box of DVDs. Well, hanging out in the basement became a regular thing over the following days. Not just because of the novelty of the situation, but because it was also a much more mellow and peaceful place than our apartments, which were either constantly in a state of or surrounded by some kind of turmoil. However, we noticed that Amanda was beginning to get a little short and snappy with us. So, assuming she probably wanted some time to herself, we decided to spend Friday out of the boiler room. Later that evening, after school, Moses and I were in the alley next to the building, as I put the chain back on his bike. Why does yours never do that? He asked. Because I actually take care of mine, I told him, rolling the bicycle back to him. Oh, you haven't even oiled the chain since you got it. And that's when we heard a voice from in front of the complex, just out of sight around the corner. It sounded like a man talking on his phone. Yeah, but I think I have an idea. There's this place in the back nobody ever goes where we can cook, the man said to whoever was on the other end of the call. I'll send you some pictures real quick. Let me just go take some. After that, the voice went quiet. We got back to messing with our bikes for a few more minutes before a thought occurred to me. Hey, Mo, isn't cooking slang for something? I asked him. Yeah, for making meth, I think. Like they said it all the time on Breaking Bad, he answered. That's when both of our expressions changed to match. You, think that guy? He started to ask, but before he could finish, I had already dropped my bike and was running full sprint for the entrance with Moses close behind. We slammed the door to the stairwell open and made our way down as fast as we could, stumbling over each other several times along the way. I kicked open the door to the basement and flipped the switch on, not even remotely prepared for what would happen once we encountered the man or anything else after that. Or at least, I would have. But the switch was already on. We looked down the seemingly empty corridor of chain-link cages, then back at one another. Amanda? Moses called towards the boiler room, but got no reply. Slowly we both crept our way back to the room as quietly as possible. Even though, looking back, we'd already done a pretty solid job of making our presence obvious, and we were so winded from running that we couldn't have been quiet if we really had to. But it seemed like the thing to do at the time anyway. Once we finally got to the other side, I pulled the flashlight from my pocket and switched it on, illuminating the small, seemingly empty space. I guess he didn't mean this place after all, Moses said. But where's Amanda? Is it already dark enough for her to go outside? Yeah, guess it must be, I answered, as I tried to get my breath under control, giving the room one more sweep with a light. All that for nothing. You need to stop jumping to conclusions, I said to Moses as we started to leave, and then something bumped into the side of my head. Clicking the light back on, I aimed to see what I'd run into. Mo, run, I tried to whisper, but choked on my own words as the light hit one of the two legs that were hanging down from the ceiling, which led my vision the rest of the way up to the person's body to see what was holding it up. She was clinging to the ceiling by all fours, her unnaturally long tongue deeply inserted into the man's neck, from which a few of its many spines could be seen protruding from under the skin as it pushed and undulated, and blood trickled from the jagged, open wounds. Her viscous yellow eyes suddenly flicked over to meet mine as I gazed up in horror from the ground. Why? Moses asked before his eyes followed the light and he saw for himself. Eli, I heard him whimper. Mo, run, goddammit, I shouted at him this time and gave him a hard shove in the right direction. We both took off back down the basement until we hit the doors and scrambled through them. I made it out first and waited for Moses. He stumbled out a second after, then I slammed the door shut and pressed my weight against them. As soon as Moses had cleared the doors, he dropped to his knees and violently puked all over the white tile floor at the foot of the stairs. He looked up at me from the ground with a look of shock and terror practically welded to his face for several seconds before I said the only thing I could think of. I'm not cleaning that up. The hell is that? Moses asked the next day as I met him at the entrance to the basement. Wooden stake, I answered, holding up the roughly whittled spike. I'm not going down without a fight. You're being stupid again. We need to hear her side of the story, Moses told me, but I brushed him off. Well, I'm still going to shank her if she comes at me, I asserted, trying to hide the shaking in my voice the best I could. As we got to the boiler room, we slowly peeked around the corner, but there was nobody there. All the lights were on, but Amanda was nowhere to be found. We stepped into the room and looked around as we spoke. You think she ran away? Moses asked. Probably, I answered, looking around for anything that might tell us if she might come back or if she was gone forever. While I shifted some clutter around on one of the tables, I heard something hit the floor behind me. As I turned to see what it was, I found myself face to face with Amanda. Her mouth opened as she reached for me, and in a panic, I drove the wooden stake deep into her chest. A look of confusion washed over her face. Then, as she looked down at the object penetrating her chest, she softly coughed up a small stream of blood and looked back up at me. Then her eyes widened in shock as she gripped the spike and started to scream at the top of her lungs. "Ow! What the hell did you do that for?" she yelled in my face. "Oh my God, I don't know, I'm sorry, I panicked, I swear to God," I yelled back over Moses, who was also now yelling. Not words, just yelling and being generally unhelpful. "Get it out, God, it hurts," she demanded as she fell to the ground and began kicking and flailing wildly. Obeying, I took hold of it and tried pulling, but it only seemed to make things worse, because she just screamed louder and threatened to kill me if I didn't do something. Damned if I do, damned if I don't. So I tried to put one foot on her chest for leverage, and, well, that went about as well as you'd expect. "Oh, you're crushing my boob, you ass," she shrieked. "You're only like 13 or something, you don't even have them," I shouted back. "Try twisting it," Moses added. "Twist what? Oh," I asked, pausing from the suggestion. "I mean the steak. Aren't you the smart one?" Moses said, at which point Amanda grabbed the collar of my shirt, pulling my face closer to hers. "If you twist anything, I'll pull your spine out of your urethra. Get this thing out of my chest," she hissed at me. "What's an urethra?" Moses asked. "Dick hole." Amanda and I both turned our heads and shouted at him. "I was just asking a question. You don't have to insult me," he mumbled. After a few more minutes of screaming and cursing, we finally managed to wiggle the steak out of her chest, which had got lodged between her ribs, and then we all fell to the cold floor in exhaustion. We stayed there for a while, trying to catch our breath before anyone spoke, and it was Amanda who finally broke the silence. "So, yeah, I guess I have some explaining to do." Yeah, you do," I said, staring up at the boiler room ceiling. "I can't explain it. I've been feeling like the rats were doing less the last few days, but I thought I had it under control. Then that guy came walking in. The smell. It's like when you walk past a bakery or something. I just couldn't help myself. It just happened," she explained. "So you, accidentally ate a guy?" I asked. "Yes or no, I don't know. It's like how when you hold your breath for a really long time, then after so long you just have to breathe," she said. "I don't know how all this works." When she was done, I picked myself up off the floor and dusted myself off before trying to make my way to the basement doors. "I'm going back upstairs. Try not to eat Moses while I'm gone," I said, turning around to face her. "Try not to stab anyone in the chest," she replied. "Fair enough," I said after a pause, and then left for the stairs. Hey, son of a bitch, hey!" I shouted at a couple of crackheads that were inspecting mine and Moses' bikes that we'd accidentally left outside the day before. Yeah, I yelled at them as I grabbed a metal trash can lid and a stick off the ground and started beating them together to frighten them off. "Oh God, they're not raccoons, you know." Amanda's voice spoke from behind me as I bent down to recover our bikes. "Might as well be," I said, turning around to face her. Once I did, I could see she was still wearing the shirt with a hole and fresh blood all over it. "What the hell?" I hissed at her. "What if someone sees you? And sees you like this, especially? Come on," I said, trying to pull her along with me inside and back down to the basement. But before we got there, someone opened the front door and started to walk out. "Oh, shit," I whispered, yanking Amanda back into the alley and down behind the trash cans. I peeked through an opening between two of the cans and watched as a young woman I'd never seen before exited the building. She had glasses and dark hair that she kept in a bun. She wore kind of nice clothes, too. I mean, not really nice, but like something someone who works in a cubicle would wear. Just a white button shirt with the sleeves rolled up and black dress pants. I figured she must have been a social worker or something. Once she was gone, I told Amanda to stay put, then ran up to the door to make sure it was clear before I gave her the signal to come out. Once we were in, I didn't waste any time pushing her towards the door to the stairwell. "Stop doing that. Look, if someone sees you, we're all in deep shit," I told her as we entered the stairwell. "God, well, I'm not going to tell on you if someone finds me," she said indignantly. "That's not a risk I feel like taking," I replied. "Now go get a different shirt. I can see your boob through the hole." I instructed, causing her to blush, squeal, and take off running down the stairs to the basement. That was some serious anime shit, I thought to myself, as I left the stairwell in a hurry to beat the base heads back to the bikes. After that, I brought our bikes in and dropped Moses's unceremoniously on the other side of the stairwell doors before rolling mine back up to my apartment. "Oh, I want to go trick-or-treating," Amanda exclaimed from next to my open window. "What the hell are you two doing in my bedroom?" I asked, making sure to voice how grumpy I was already. It's almost Halloween. She wants to go out and have a little fun," Moses said, ignoring me. "So, what about this vampire that's supposedly still out there looking for you? Isn't that the whole point of you staying in our basement? You know, the smell?" I inquired. "Well, we thought maybe if we get her a full body costume and put some kind of odor killers in there, she might be okay for a little while," he explained. "Well, this isn't what I had in mind," Amanda complained as she held up the cheap werewolf costume. "It's the only full-body costume the store had that would fit. I can't exactly afford to go across town to a costume shop. Hey, you're welcome," I told her, the grumpiness still in my voice. "Oh God, but werewolves are assholes," she mumbled under her breath. "What? What does that even mean?" I asked. "Oh, nothing. Just something I read on the internet a while back," she answered. "Okay, well, vampires are ungrateful little shits who can either be a werewolf or stay in the basement on Halloween," I said, as I fell back down on the couch and pulled a copy of Dog Soldiers out of one of the boxes of DVDs. "Here, use this to get in character," I added, tossing the case to her. She groaned as she caught the case and looked at the title. "What now?" I complained. "I don't like this one. This movie scares me." "What did you just say to me?" I asked in disbelief. "Well, this movie always scared me. I don't like it," she whimpered. "Jesus, well, it's almost Halloween, and I want to watch scary movies in a dark basement with a vampire, so we're watching Dog Soldiers," I demanded. "Besides, I'm still trying to get the image of you sucking that dope head's insides out through his neck. So, just deal with it." "You really want to watch movies with me?" she asked. "Don't read too much into it. It's not every day you get to watch monster movies with an actual monster," I stated plainly. I heard her stammer from beside me. "Oh, shit, damn it. Look, I didn't mean..." I tried to apologize. "No, you're not wrong. I think it's just now really sinking in that I actually heard it out loud. I mean, does this mean I'll look like this age forever? Can I have kids? If I do, will it be like this too?" She pondered solemnly. "Oh, damn. You're such a downer. What do you want to watch?" "Oh, Shrek, please," she answered with a cheeky grin. "Well, I guess there's worse movies you could have picked," I mumbled as I slid Shrek into the DVD player. "Here, this t-shirt has been in here forever. Put these mothballs in your pocket. Maybe they'll replicate the smell of this place enough to hide your scent," I told Amanda, handing her the shirt and an old box of mothballs. "Kay," she chirped. "Now, wait out there while I get changed." Moses had been visiting his grandparents for the past few weeks, which left me saddled with chaperoning Amanda while she went trick-or-treating. Well, I'm not entirely sure why. She was strong enough that she could probably toss me like a frisbee, and her injuries healed pretty much instantly, but they both insisted I go with her. So I waited around the corner in my Frankenstein costume for her to get dressed. That's Frankenstein the scientist, not the monster, by the way. After a few minutes, I heard a muffled, "Hey, how do I look?" from the back of the boiler room. Well hidden," I said, catching a strong whiff of mothballs. "Ready?" she asked with a hop. "Yeah, I guess so. Follow me and wait until I give the signal so nobody sees you come out of their stairwell," I instructed her. She agreed. "Aren't we going to go trick-or-treating in the building first?" she asked as we walked out the front door. "Nah, the people in this building ain't giving nothing away for free. You either got to steal it or fight them for it," I explained. "And we're going a few neighborhoods over to the good side of town. You'll get better candy there anyway." Excuse me? An unfamiliar voice called from behind us as we walked. I turned to see the social worker-looking lady from before trotting toward us. Can I have a second, please? My dad doesn't hit me. All my needs are met. I'm a perfectly happy, healthy 12-year-old child. I recited my default social worker lines. What? Why would you say that? She asked, obviously confused. Well, you're a social worker, aren't you? All you guys do is come around every now and then and ask us if our parents beat us, if we get enough food, and if we have an acceptable quality of life, and then move on to the next one, I answered. What? No, you got it all wrong, kid. I'm in the middle of an investigation, and I just need to... My dad said don't talk to the police unless he's with me. I cut her off. Calm down, I'm not a cop. I'm a private investigator, she explained as she pulled a small piece of paper out of her shirt pocket. Look, you haven't seen this girl by chance, have you? She asked. Oh, my stomach did flips as she held the picture of Amanda to my face, but I kept my cool and squinted at it for a second, to fake thinking before I took it in my hand and said, Hey, Moses, you seen her around lately? Amanda leaned forward for a second, copying what I did under her mask before shaking her head. The lady stuffed the photo back in her pocket with a soft huff before she asked, Well, do you know of any places someone like her could hide or possibly be hidden around here? Nah, not really. A pretty little rich white girl like that around here, oh, she'd stick out like a sore thumb, I lied. Yeah, I guess so. It's hard to blend in around places like this, she sighed. Oh, nice costume, she added, unknowingly patting Amanda on the head. Yeah, werewolves are pretty cool. The hell do you know about it? I barked the question before I'd even realized it. Slow down there, kid. I was homeless for a while when I was a kid. Not too far from here, actually, she said as she looked around. Yeah, I'm sure you know all about the struggle, I mocked. But before I could even finish, she had me by the collar of my shirt and, for a brief second, I was pretty sure I felt both my feet leave the ground. Now listen here, you little shit-ass. You wanna... She started to hiss in my face, but was interrupted by someone calling towards us. Hey, Kara. Detective. We can't fight kids. A man yelled as he ran our way. Do they know anything, or can we leave this before you start a brawl with a couple of middle schoolers? Let's go, she growled, and as they walked away I could hear her scold the other guy. What did I say about using our names in front of the people, dipshit? That's not suspicious at all, I said to Amanda as I turned to face her. Back to trick-or-treating, I suggested. Hey, why are you bouncing? You think I'm pretty, she chirped, which was muffled by the cheap werewolf mask. Oh, God. Let's just go, I moaned, grabbing her wrist and pulling her behind me. You were right, this is so much candy, she squealed, looking down into her hefty bag as we made our way back to the apartment. Look, that's a whole Hershey bar. I told you, I said over my shoulder as we walked, but as I looked back I noticed she'd stopped and was staring straight past me. I walked over to her and asked what she was looking at. It was him, she said, reaching out her hand and pointing towards an alleyway just ahead of us. I saw him walk down there. Who? Wait, what? You mean him? I asked nervously. She nodded her head in response. Okay, wait over there behind the corner. I'll be right back, I instructed. What? Are you stupid or something? She hissed at me under her breath. Well, I have to go see what he's up to. Plus, it'll help if I know what he looks like. Now, go over there and wait for me, I told her before inching my way closer and closer to the alley. As I neared the corner, I could hear him talking to someone. Shouldn't be inviting strangers into a dark alley with you, ma'am. No telling what they might do. The man chuckled maliciously in a heavy country accent. Yeah, well, I'll try to remember that next time. A vaguely familiar woman's voice spoke. I tried to see who it was, but he was standing in front of her. Oh, well, that's the problem. Ain't gonna be no next time, he started to say, but was cut off. Sure. I mean, do you know her? The owner of the voice said as she stepped to the side and held up a piece of paper. God, the social detective, I whispered to myself. Shit, she is so fucked. But fucked she was not. Yeah, I know her, but that ain't what you need to be worrying yourself about right now, little lady, the man said in a way that I could almost hear the grin creak across his face. All of a sudden he lunged at her in a flash. I squeezed my eyes shut, waiting to hear the carnage in my ears, but all I could hear was a low groaning. As I opened my eyes, I saw that the man was now down on his knees. The woman had her hand on his shoulder and was gripping it so tight I could hear the bones crack and crunch from my place far down the alley. I'll ask you one more time, then I torture, the woman said in such a plain conversation voice it was actually disturbing. After a few more seconds of silence, she squeezed down hard on his shoulder and I heard a wet crunch like somebody stomping on a head of lettuce. I don't know where she is. I've been looking for her, but she's hiding somewhere where I can't pick up her smell. I swear. Yeah? I don't believe you, the woman spoke down to the kneeling man as she placed both hands on either side of his face. And with a stiff jerk, she snatched his head clean off his shoulders. I took off as fast as I could back to Amanda, who was visibly unsettled by my sudden retreat. Go! Fucking go now! I hissed into her ear as we both sprinted back to the complex on a different route that didn't take us in front of the alley. What happened? Did he see you? She questioned once we stopped in front of the apartments. It was the investigator, I huffed, trying to catch my breath. What? What about her? Did he get her too? She asked. No, she got him. Ripped his head right the fuck off. Oh, I think I'm gonna puke. I continued to gasp. I don't understand, she whimpered. Yeah, me neither, but we gotta get you back down to the basement. If that lady's looking for you, then we might all be in deep shit. I managed to wheeze out in one go. You go back downstairs. I have to email Mo and tell him to be on the lookout for her when he gets back. I ran up the stairs to my room and went straight to the computer and sent Moses an email with the heading, Trouble, read now, telling him about what I'd seen in the alley. Moses' grandparents dropped him off at school that day, so we met up and walked home once the last bell had rung. Yeah, dude, it was insane. I almost felt sorry for the guy. I said, almost. I emphasized when I saw the look on his face. Well, we'll figure it out once we get home, Moses tried to reassure me. But my stomach's been hurting all day. First thing I'm going to do is take a big shit. I was going to say dookie, but yeah, he said. But I had almost run straight into the investigator woman while I was looking back at him. Hey, is something wrong, kid? She asked curiously, looking down at me through her glasses. Nah, I just wasn't paying attention. You startled me, I lied. Well, you should be careful, she suggested. Who's this now? She asked, looking over at Moses. This is my friend Mo, I told her. The face behind the werewolf mask, she said to him. What? Werewolf mask? Moses said before I had a chance to stop him. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were someone I'd already met. She apologized dismissively, but I could still see the look of suspicion on her face as I grabbed Moses and took off back to the complex. What the hell was that all about? He asked as we ran to the building after trying to casually stroll as far away from the woman as we could. Oh, I think we just fucked ourselves bad, I told him, but then I slid to a stop. Oh, damn it. We can't go back to the building. Why not? Moses asked, confused by the situation. I don't think she knows we live there yet. But if we go there now and she's following us, then we might lead her right back to our home, and Amanda too, I explained. So, what do we do? He asked again. I guess we just wander around until we're sure we're not being followed, I suggested, looking at our surroundings. After about an hour or so, Once we were pretty sure she wasn't following us, we started to make our way back home. But we still made a point to keep our eyes open the whole time, just to be sure. When we got back, we ran straight down the stairs to make sure Amanda was okay, and to tell her she might better stay inside since it was starting to get dark and that lady was out prowling around looking for her. "Hey guys, I was starting to wonder where you were. What's wrong?" she asked when she saw the serious look on our faces. "Oh, we ran into that lady on the way home. I think she might be wise to us now," I told her. "We walked around for a while to make sure she didn't follow us back." "Oh, well, thank you for that," she said as she scratched her head. "So, what now?" "We lay low, I guess," I said. "Just be careful not to run into her. We'll lead her back here until she gives up and goes up." Right then, the lights to Amanda's room suddenly flicked off, plunging us into darkness. Somebody had just turned the basement lights on. We all went dead silent as we listened to the footsteps from around the corner as whoever turned the lights on walked around. A few seconds later, the lights in the boiler room flicked back on, and we all took a deep breath of relief. After a few more seconds of carefully listening for any more footsteps, I peeked my head around the corner to check and see if they were gone. Hi. The face that mine was now only an inch or two away from said, as we made eye contact. The lady had been waiting just around the corner, and I almost knocked heads with her as I went to look. I sutured as I fell back on my ass from the shock. "Guys, company!" I shouted back at Moses and Amanda as the woman stepped from behind the corner and into the boiler room with the rest of us. How'd you find us? We made sure you didn't follow us," I managed to choke out. "Ed Calderon's urban movement costs. Worth every penny," she answered. "Just because you didn't see me doesn't mean I wasn't there, kid." "Ah, well, there you are," she exclaimed as her eyes fell on Amanda. "My little dollar store werewolf," she added with a slight grin. "Okay, boys, I'm going to have to ask you to take a hike now. I have business with your friend." She took several steps forward, but stopped when me and Moses both jumped between her and Amanda, throwing our arms up to make a practically useless shield with our bodies. "Okay, guys, that's cute and all, but your friend there has a condition that poses a very real danger to both." "We already know she's a vampire," I stated defiantly, interrupting her. "Oh yeah, she's good people though," Moses added. "Oh well, in that case you're both idiots. But even so," she said, taking another step forward. We all yelled at once. "We're not gonna let you hurt her. Look, you can't. She's our friend. Please, don't rip my head off." What? The lady stopped with a look of bewilderment on her face. But before she could say anything else, a loud crack and a spray of wooden splinters filled the room as someone struck her head from behind with a large board, causing it to shatter and her head to jerk sideways and crash into the far wall. After the impact, she slid limply down to the floor, unconscious. "Yeah, I told you if we waited long enough, she'd lead us to her," the man who struck her called out to someone just behind him. "Now we got her and the girl," he added, turning back to us. "I guess old Jeb was right about hiring them after all." "Well, I guess it's safe to say you're both vampires, and you're not here to help us, are you?" I asked the new guy who was still holding the half piece of destroyed 2x4. "Oh boy, you said it," the man said, leaning down to my level and tossing the board to the floor beside him. "You said it," he repeated as a nasty smirk cracked across his face. Then he reached his hand out towards me, and I squinted my eyes shut in anticipation of whatever was about to happen to me. But nothing did. Instead, I heard Amanda scream from behind me, jolting my eyes wide open as the man picked her up off the ground by her long hair. "Kill him," he instructed the other guy, who'd just entered the room behind him. But before the man could make his approach, we heard a faint voice in the distance, getting louder and louder. Sorry, 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 sorry. Followed by a low whooshing sound as an object was hurled from the dark of the basement. And just as the rear vampire turned to identify the commotion, it struck him square in the forehead with a loud thud, dropping the monster immediately, a small axe now deeply embedded in his skull. Sorry, 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 the voice continued, until its owner came into view. It was the man from before that knew the investigator lady. They got the drop on me. I tried to... The man stopped mid-sentence once he saw the situation in the room. After a short pause, he quickly reached down for the axe, but as he tried to wrench it loose, it had become stuck. And before he could free it from the man's skull, the other vampire had already dropped Amanda, tackling the guy to the ground and knocking him away from his weapon. Hey, wake your ass up and help me, please, he yelled at the unconscious woman as he struggled against the vampire's attack and tried to reach his axe. But suddenly the vampire got a solid shot in and knocked the guy out cold. Okay, back to business, he said, standing up over the man and looking in our direction. Hey, where's the girl? Before any of us knew it, especially him, Amanda had dropped down from the ceiling onto his shoulders and started using her long, claw-like fingernails to tear away at his face, pulling large chunks of flesh out and ripping deep caverns into his skull. After a few seconds, he finally got a good grip and tossed her across the room. Once he was finally free of her, he doubled over and screamed into his hands as blood ran from it down in his arms and his shirt, where it dripped and pooled onto the floor underneath his feet. We looked on in horror as, a few moments later, he removed his hands and we watched the skin and muscle regrow across his gory chasm of a face, and an entire unblinking eye reform in his head before the lids finally grew back over it as well. Well, that's enough of that, he growled. I was going to keep you alive and have some fun for a while, but you're already more trouble than you're worth, he added as he snatched the axe free from his accomplice's head and began to slowly march towards us. I tried to stop him, but he just shoved me out of the way with his crazy strength, knocking me to the floor. So, I did the only thing I could think of at the time. I grabbed the splintered remains of the board from earlier and smashed it as hard as I could into his knee. To my surprise, his leg buckled and folded in on itself, which caused him to stumble and drop to the ground between me and the woman. This finally managed to jostle her awake. Once her eyes opened and she realized what was happening, there was a violent struggle for several seconds until everything went still. The vampire rolled off her, dead, a short blade sticking into the side of his head. Oh, fuck, the woman groaned as she got to her feet. Damn, that really hurts, she complained as she rubbed the back of her head. Hey, are you alive? She asked as she kicked the heel of the unconscious man, who mumbled in response. Close enough. Okay, now you, she said, looking back at Amanda. Can we now talk, please? What? We all asked in unison. You mean you're not here to kill her? I asked nervously. What? No. I mean, who gave you that idea? She answered. I guess we just assumed, I stammered. Well, no. I came to kill the one that did this to her for sure, but, well, him and his buddies, but we're here to help her. We have a place where she can be herself while she learns to live with her condition, until she's ready to do her own thing out in the world, the lady explained. What kind of place? Amanda asked her. Is it far away? She added, turning to look at me and Moses. Well, yes and no. You'll understand once you see it, but I know what you're thinking, and after a little while you can come visit these two all the time, if you want, the woman replied. But wait, why should we trust you? I asked, still suspicious. I heard that one guy say you were the ones who were hired to find Amanda to begin with. Wait, He said they... What? She yelled. 1 second. She told us as she pulled out her phone and made a call. Yeah, hey, this case I'm on. Listen, who's the client? What do you mean, anonymous? Someone tells you a girl's family was killed and she might have turned into a vampire anonymously. That didn't raise any red flags? Okay, no, what's gonna happen is when I get back... No. What's gonna happen is I'm gonna literally climb up inside your ass and kick you in the fucking prostrate. And with that, she hung up and tucked her phone back into her pocket. I'll tell you what, I gotta get Sleeping Beauty seen about, so how about we come back tomorrow, she suggested. And that's how it all went down. I'm sitting here in Amanda's room in the basement next to her and Moses. We're just spending our last night together for a while, watching her favorite movies as I type this whole thing out. Yeah, there's a little vampire gunk here and there, but the woman cleaned up most of it before she left. She'll be back tomorrow afternoon, though, and it'll be at least a few months before Amanda can come back to visit, so we're making the best of it until then. And that's our story, of how we found and made friends with a Dracula in the basement. Did you get it? You did, didn't you? Werewolves are assholes. Well, it was a sneaky one, so this is not really part of the universe, but then again it is, of course, part of the universe. In the way that Halloween 3 Season of the Witch is part of the Halloween series because the guy in the gas station is watching Halloween, and Laurie Strode does a voiceover, this is part of the Werewolves universe, in only a very, very tangential way, but who cares? It's good enough for me. Did you like that one? I thought you would. Well, that is definitely enough for me for this evening, but of course, I will be back again on Friday evening with something lovely for you all. Till then, sweet dreams and bye-bye. Thank you so much for choosing to spend your time listening to me. Now, if you enjoyed the Dr. Creepen experience, then come find me on Facebook. Come chat with me on Twitter. Listen to the background music and download it if you like on SoundCloud. Drop by the store, pick up a t-shirt. And, importantly, if you've got a story you'd like me to read, send it to Dr. Creepen's Vault, the subreddit I set up so that I could read your stories. Now, looking forward to seeing you all again real soon. So, come check me out, okay?